was pretty sure I put that quarterly meeting on in the right spot on my calendar. But Sarah's gonna have to deliver Meals on Wheels by herself that day.
Uh-oh.
Because usually they're on Wednesdays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, this was the rescheduled one.
Right.
right,
yeah,
right,
she couldn't get things, they weren't available
yeah.
on Wednesday, so
They're
the
having a hard
catering in
time,
the
getting-
facility.
yeah,
Right,
having
well,
a
I
hard
think
time
that's-
getting drivers for Meals on Wheels, so. I think I've done 3 the last 5 weeks, and normally with my normal affiliations, I just do 2 for Lions and 2 for the church. They're
Short.
having trouble finding drivers.
Well, I think it's that time, 9 AM. So we'll call the meeting to order and begin with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call, please.
Mochler.
Here.
Graylow.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Teasy.
Here.
Hammond.
Here,
Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none. So we need to approve the agenda. And Carrie, you've suggested adding material bid recommendations and also right-of-way applications. Any other additions?
Rod wanted the township, what did you call that?
Rural access infrastructure.
yeah,
Yep. And
And
I
then-
think that's the materials bid recommendations, or is that separate?
No, that's
Separate.
this is
Separate.
township
Okay,
money that we,
all right, so
giving out.
that's 3 additions to the agenda.
and then executive session for legal.
Okay. So that's 4 additions. So with those 4 additions, do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve with the additions. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We've added 4 items to the agenda. Next, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
move to approve.
It's a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any visitors to be heard? Anything that's not on the agenda anyone wants to bring up? Okay, then we will go on to the agenda, starting with Scott. You want to talk about the MEP project updates?
So we've had the one general contractor. To come through with several subcontractors. So last Friday was pretty busy. He had 3 or 4 subs with them going through, looking at stuff. So things are progressing nicely there. A lot of conversation about scope of the project and what it entails and in keeping the courthouse functional during this process. A lot of talk about coordinating with the different entities and departments within the building, what all that's going to take, what all that's going to entail. So I'm going to kind of draft up a letter and send out to the department heads so they kind of know what's going on. Maybe they can start processing in mind, well, how are we going to work with this, deal with this? What can we do? You know, such things as, you know, if possible, that you can work off site. I know the state's attorney did that when we put the ceiling up there. Maybe courts will have to be held off site. Maybe a possibility for that might be, I don't know what's available at the law school, you know, nothing there.
Nothing. They'd have to go to Yankton or Union.
Okay. So, you know, those are things that need to be thought about, you know, maybe the county's got to pay employees to stay home for a day or 2. Don't really know. We're kind of dealing with now how we're going to make this work. Do we go floor by floor? You know, or do we do quarter sections? So how is it all going to come together? Some offices is gonna be a little more intrusive than others because it's gonna require cutting through walls, boring floors. Probably the most intrusive part is the duct work for the ventilation system to bring in the fresh air. So there's still a lot of moving parts out there that we haven't quite brought together, but we haven't really landed on a contractor yet. So, but these are just the things that keep coming up over and over. So I'll put together a letter explaining to everybody the kind of the scope and the size of the project. But I don't think a lot of people realize how many tradespeople that involves. Because we got electrical technology, we got, and that encompasses electrical panels, lighting throughout offices in the north stairwell, fire alarm system, emergency lighting. And we got heating, ventilation, air conditioning that we're replacing a boiler with 2 boilers, replacing 49 fan coil units, the installation of the ventilation recovery system, the exchange of the fresh air, new air conditioning system for the courtroom with additional fresh air added to that unit. We have a fire suppression system and acoustical ceiling throughout. So it's going to be a lot. So I want to get that message across so they kind of all understand, so we can kind of work together and become one big happy family during this. So, you know, we don't really know how long it's going to take because we don't know how we're going to approach it. Are we going to approach it in phases? We're going to phase it in because a lot of it has to do right now with subs. You know, I think there's even been talk about pushing the start date back so we can get subs lined up because it's just a little too tight. So there's a lot of loose ends, but I guess long story short, I'm going to reach out to everybody here, the department heads, kind of let them know what's going on and kind of be thinking about stuff like that. We did have a new player come to the table late in the game, L&L Builders out of Sioux City. I haven't received a call from them yet, but Lynn reached out to me last Friday, and I got an email from her saying they're interested. They're coming down to look things over. Like I said, I have not heard from them yet. We received back this project required us to get some asbestos testing done and some lead testing done. This project and the courtroom security project, because probably no surprise that we have both in the facility because it's 1912 structure. So I'll be sending a little thing out to all the staff in the courtroom or in the courthouse, letting them know, you know, they have the right to know that this stuff exists in the building, et cetera, et cetera. How that plays into the whole projects, both projects, is we're liable for the remediation or the abatement of these, of the lead and the asbestos. So that's the cost we're going to have to incur. It's going to be done in those areas where we have to make those penetrations through the walls or the floors. And I don't have a number on the exact amount, but the floor penetrations are pretty minimal. You know, I want to say half a dozen of both, maybe a little bit more on the walls. So the areas where we have to go through, the areas that get marked, that have to get sawed for the ductwork and to pass through. Then before they can do that, we'll have an abatement company come in and abate the lead paint off those areas. And asbestos was found under the carpet down to the original mastic or glue that they used back in 1912. That was pretty common ingredient in the glue back then. So we got a little bit of abatement on asbestos to do in those areas. Now the good news is this, I always get the name wrong, Browning, or what's the name of that? Whoever got the grant, Brownsfield, they will pay for the abatement of the asbestos. So I think that's pretty minimal in the scope of this project. The lead's probably gonna be the expensive part, so. I'm trying to find somebody that does that in this area now, so I'm doing a little research there. And I reached out to Brownsfield to see what, if any forms we had to fill out to get this asbestos abatement moving forward. And that's kind of the gist of this. Anybody's got any questions?
I was actually kind of pleased to see out of 17 samples, only 2 came back with asbestos.
Yeah,
It's could be a lot worse.
yeah, and we took them into the areas that I knew at that point in time were gonna, there's gonna be construction work in those areas and penetrations being made. So, yeah, I was a little surprised at that also. So
Areas have been cleaned out.
what's that
Areas with asbestos have been cleaned out
over the years?
over the years.
Yeah,
I know we
okay.
did it in the room next to the old commissioner room. They took that floor out.
Scott's office. Yeah,
Next to the old commissioner. Well, we did the commissioner room too, right? At that time, the old one.
unless, well, Scott's office was done because the flooding that was in there.
And the room next to it
That
also,
little storage area. Yeah,
because it flooded,
I
I
don't
thought.
remember that one
Yeah.
getting done.
it's just.
It
painted-
might have been part of the project, though.
Yeah, it's
could've
just
been.
painted concrete in there now, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the basement came back as one of the cleaner areas. When it came to asbestos, so,
But to my knowledge, that's the only area that's been done.
so,
so I think it's good that you're gonna send out letters to the department heads.
Right.
Just in having conversations with subs. There's quite a few that aren't gonna bid because it's such a nightmare to work here. They'll come in for an hour and then they'll get kicked out. So I think we need to sit down with the department heads. And just ask them, either we are going to do this. Or we can't do it. It's gonna be so expensive if. People
Right.
aren't bidding, or they're gonna bid it knowing
mhm.
they're only gonna get to work an hour or two.
If the general goes back to these subs to say, hey. This evenings and weekends, they're gonna say nope, or the
Yeah.
price is gonna jump astronomically.
Which is kind of where you're going with.
Right.
meeting and kind
Right.
of laying out what the
You know,
scope of the work is.
Right,
But I think that's where we have to step in and.
Yeah.
Have that conversation with them saying it's going to happen. And the courts are gonna be a big one too.
right. That and treasurer's office. That's
I
a
don't-
busy office.
I don't remember who, Dick, you might have been on the board. I mean, they've stopped us from mowing the lawn. Because they were
Yes.
holding court.
I remember that.
That has happened many times over
Yeah.
the years.
That, stuff like that is not gonna be able to happen in this project.
Yeah.
And they've got a project coming up with the remodel up there. They're
Right.
gonna have to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
People are going to be very inconvenienced.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is there a reason that the USD courtroom couldn't be used?
There's no jury box.
Uh,
It's just for,
Supreme Court
yeah, the Supreme Court meets there.
and appeals courts can.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure they could maybe hold like. What is it, mag court? That too,
I mean,
That's
that
true.
would be a disaster.
but is going to Union or Yankton,
I mean, I think it depends on what you want to do there. I think that, in either. You'd need to talk to the commissioners there and figure that out. I mean, Union does have that whole additional courtroom downstairs. That was, implemented for the BPI trial. So,
what kind of a makeshift courtroom could we put into a strip mall? office
yeah, I
building?
don't know. I mean, that might be something you could entertain too with
Can you make this into a? courtroom?
chairs and.
You could technically, but we have to meet here too, because there's court today.
Yeah.
For
Well,
us.
I think that would be the conversation is structuring that and scheduling it with the judges, but
And are they gonna scream security on a strip mall?
possibly, I mean, I think that's another kind of interesting logistics with USD. Is that every time the Supreme Court is sitting there, I mean, the Highway Patrol provides security and entrance exits are limited, so. Now, we don't have that right now, but but
No, but you're not gonna get, you're not gonna get a sniper on the third floor, from the third floor like you would
Yeah.
a strip mall. That's usually what they throw out there is,
Would City Hall be a possibility?
They've got
I
that
mean-
downstairs.
That could be interesting to touch base with them about and see what they could do, because. I mean, if we're not holding trials, like jury trials, then we don't need the jury
Box.
box, other than we have been utilizing it for inmates, and that's been working much. Better from a standpoint of just them separate from the public, so. But yeah, that's probably just a dialogue, I don't know. Andy and Judge and.
So who's the head judge? I mean, who,
So the presiding judge for the whole First Circuit is Judge Gehring. And then Judge Byrne is gonna be our on-site circuit judge who handles.
so who do we need to talk to, or who needs to be part of this conversation?
I mean, I would probably start with Judge Byrne just because she's gonna be most impacted by this and maybe have some suggestions, and she'll know if Judge Gehring needs to be looped in for. Helping figure some of those things out. And I think the other thing that makes sense from that, is I know Judge Byrne has kept Judge Gehring in the loop as it pertains to the like the court process upstairs for the grant fund, but she's clearly most knowledgeable about that whole process because she applied for the grant and.
I would think that this room could work for like non-jury trials, not knowing as little as I do. uh, Rather than moving off-site, it may be easier for folks to be less disruptive for them to come down here rather than up and upstairs, rather than moving off-site somewhere else.
The noise is still gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, if mowing the lawn is a problem,
yeah.
working a floor above is gonna be a problem.
Well,
Oh, I see
I
what
know.
you're saying.
I know, and there's been a number of projects, including at USD. I got a number of projects where I had to work only on weekends and holidays. And Briarcliff University down on Pierce Street in Sioux City a couple of times, and where they just it was mainly because of noise. I was paid a little extra to work on weekends and holidays.
Do we have a timeline or for the court? I mean, I think moving the court is gonna be the hardest thing.
Not at this time, because,
Okay.
we haven't given it the official stamp, and, when they do that, they gotta start ordering equipment. And they're talking 120 days out on a lot of that stuff that they're gonna need. But, that doesn't mean they can't get in ahead of time and start stripping out fan coil units, et cetera, but they gotta take in consideration, we're going into cooling season, we're gonna need air conditioning in those rooms too, so. Yeah,
Yeah.
We,
so this time don't really have any firm details.
we also, and not that this is something that anybody necessarily wants to do, but since we do have pretty good working relationship with defense counsel generally in the area on things, I mean, when COVID hit, the first couple of months, we did massive continuance requests. Like we had a standard motion stipulation by the parties and order to continue cases out 2 months, because we thought at the time that's all it would be. And so, little did we know. But so it didn't cover everything, but and it bottlenecks things then. I mean, that's a conversation to have with the courts too, because then you're shifting all the cases down the row. And the difference too with COVID is, I mean, people stayed home, our case volume dipped anyway. You're going to continue to get new cases, but there is some mechanism for some of that to try to figure out once we do have a more definitive timeline, because you can't really plan for a lot of that until you do. Where we could try to work to, if somebody wants to mull over a plea agreement, is this just a good couple months to kick things a little further down the line than we otherwise would?
As far as the cutting through the walls and cord drilling floors. There's been talk with this one contractor, obviously, 'cause it's just the one at this point in time about. Okay, they're gonna come in and they're gonna knock that out, boom, get it done. That's something there was talk about. We'll see if we can get it coordinated over a weekend in the evenings or something, get that done, get it knocked out. That's gonna be a lot of noise associated with that. you know, taking out fan coil units, putting new ones back in. There might be some piping that needs to be redone, but I think most of that's gonna be copper. Tying into those units, so, you know, it's not like we're gonna be setting up. Cutting pipe on floor and stuff like that. Now that kind of stuff's gonna happen down in the boiler room. They start tying the new boiler in, but. I think obviously the drilling is gonna be and the cutting of the walls is gonna be the really noisy stuff, but. Sound carries a long ways in that courthouse too,
Yeah,
so
yeah, you'll
if you're
hear
down in the boiler room, they're gonna hear it,
hammer drilling, you'll hear all.
Oh, yeah.
all over the building,
Mhm.
core drilling, yeah,
you know, and they gotta go from here to there, per line. So
yeah.
nothing we can't work through one way or another, we'll get it figured out, so. That was it for me. Another quick update, they are coming to, inspect that carpet failure up on. In that courtroom, they'll be here Friday. It's an independent contractor, which is really smart of the manufacturer not to send their own out, so. 'Cause that's what they used to do. So anyway, that is all I got. Unless somebody has anything for me.
Well,
Okay.
thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Looks like we got a lot of work ahead of us. All right, Drew. We've got a public hearing for amending the 2012 joint zoning regulations for Clay County and the city of Vermillion.
Yeah, this is the one of three changes that were, of four changes that we're doing in joint jurisdiction zoning ordinance. And has to do with the hearing, how the hearings are structured, for future hearings. Real simple.
Do you have a date for the second reading yet?
Yeah, April 3rd we put out.
So I'll move that we go to the second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So that's next Monday already, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's already April.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
Anybody? No? All right. Thank you, Drew. Alexis, you've got a training opportunity.
I just wanted to get your guys's approval, if you will, of training opportunity that is here at USD coming up in July. Specifically targeted to sexual assault crimes. And so specialized training like that is really great for any of law enforcement prosecutors to have. I didn't know that this was going to be offered when I did my budget last year. And it's just something that it's a week-long training. So again, really great opportunity to be brought here to our community. But it's $850 a person. And you guys will see coming up, I mean, the next person that can take what they will of me, of what I proposed for budget numbers, but I did have sought to increase some training costs and would suggest to them fairly significantly, again, coming back from COVID, doing more in-person training, things like that. I think it's just a good practice to have, and I haven't budgeted enough for that. So, because something like this comes up and just don't have it in the budget of, $2,500 total for training. So, USD did apply through their, Violence Against Women Act grant and, can fund for one of our people to go. And so in an ideal world, I'd like to send two, but I think right now that probably isn't a good thing to be making decisions for somebody else. They may come back to you guys and inquire about that in the future. But I'd like to get Samantha enrolled for that. Shouldn't cost the county anything other than the fact that when I did talk to them, what they need us to do is to front the costs. So I'm going to go over in my training budget to do that before the year is done. And then USD will send a check back to the county, but it will likely go just general funds of the county. So I wanted to get your guys' approval for that, and then also just kind of give you a heads up that, not only would the training line item go over this year, it could be more if the next person who comes in would like to do that training and there's still a spot available. So, anyway, do you guys have any opposition to that? And just okay.
How often,
Go.
how often does the training come around?
Never. I mean, this is an opportunity where the UPD director, Bryant Jackson, is very involved on a national level with a variety of trainings. He was recognized recently for some things, and he's just been really, really good about bringing in national trainers to USD for various aspects of things. Some of them, through various funding mechanisms, have been free. Caitlin Domer from our office got to go to that leadership training a couple weeks ago, and that was a phenomenal opportunity. And they helped provide that opportunity for us. So he's just done a really good job of bringing in. We had another national group come in and train last year or the year before, specifically involving campus responses to sexual assaults. And it was a really good dialogue to have law enforcement, UPD, our office, Title IX. I mean, just have all these same people at that. So he's just, I don't know where he gets them or how he gets in touch, but he's done a really good job of bringing these folks into our community and training at USD. So.
You'd mentioned this for law enforcement as well. Is this something you discussed with Andy at all? Are there any deputies that?
I don't know for sure about deputies, but I know that there are other local law enforcement officers going. Yes. So there's a certain number of slots that are saved before then they open it up to kind of a broader, other law enforcement agencies can come in and train here too. So. Yeah.
So if you weren't leaving, would you want to send both?
Yes.
So that's what I'm contemplating with, with the sexual assaults that your office has prosecuted and had to deal with.
Mhm.
If we shouldn't have. I know we're making a decision for whoever that next person is, but
We're just thinking the option that two could go.
well, we need to sign up for it and pay for it now, though.
We could do that. And the other thing was just from a staffing standpoint, I wanted to make sure. I'm sure we could probably sign up 2 spots, but I also wanted to, tell that person coming in, like, there is court that week, and we did check with USD of could Caitlin, would it be insurmountable if she missed, she was the one going. Meg court, each person would miss half a morning of the whole week, and they said that should work fine. But
I mean, the other option would be, sending from somebody, if the office couldn't spare the second person, sending somebody from the law enforcement side, so we could still use that slot.
I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, the more training people have, given how often those cases come up.
And it is really nice, like I said, week-long training here on
Right.
site. It's great.
Or we get training next year somewhere else and we get to pay lodging and, so.
Yeah.
So then do we pay for it? I mean, we're gonna get reimbursed, so that one is obvious. We should pay that one. Since the money's gonna come back to the general fund.
And what I would tell you is overall, at the end of the day, the state's attorney line item, but the state's attorney budget should not go over as a result of this training. I mean, there's going to be different fund items, if nothing else, probably salary in some respect, that will have some room for movement, but just, training would definitively go over with.
So how
this.
much on one person would you be over?
Well, so the training is $850 a person. They're going to pay, so it'll be about 1,700
Right,
out the chute. And then, but really we're going to get reimbursed 850.
right.
I haven't crunched numbers to what it will be. There have been some training costs that have been adjusted in the last year. With law enforcement training, we're actually going to see this a couple of times over. I just got notice of this today. So our annual state's attorney convention training that we always go out to. There's some highway safety funds that cover per diem and those types of things for all of us going out and coming back for the one day, and then law enforcement training. The last couple of years, they've cut down to 2 people. Anyway, it's kind of a long story, but basically what they're gonna want to do is reimburse the county again too. So,
Right, and that's why I think we should pay it since we're gonna get the money
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how much you would have left in your training that you could kick in towards 850.
well, and that's what I was gonna say, is it's hard to say because I think there are a number of different trainings that are gonna skew with the training budget is gonna go over this
Okay.
year quite a bit. But I mean, overall, budget wise, I don't think anybody's gonna have to be in here asking you guys for a supplement or anything like that. And certainly not because of training. So it's just something that, since I didn't budget for it, I just wanted to get your guys' blessing before doing that. And if you think it's a good idea to sign up both people, the budget should have the ability to do that. So that's, if you guys are good with that, that's what I will do.
Yeah,
I
it's-
think with both people would be good. Do we have to transfer anything to her budget right away, or do we? have
No, because I
timing
think
issues
we'll
with that?
just have Carrie pay it.
Yeah,
So we should be good. And like I said, overall, it should still even out just fine. And I don't think if I know I'm gonna go over on something and intentionally make that choice, I like to come in here and visit, unless it's Post-its or something. Figure it out.
yeah, well, it sounds like you've got consensus. here.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, do we need a motion? Because we're gonna spend our dollars. So I'll make the motion to sign to take 2 spots,
Okay.
thinking that it's going to be 2 people out of your office, but we can still leave the option open that it might be somebody else.
Correct. I'd second that.
Hey, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you guys very much.
All right,
Appreciate
well,
it.
thank you. I mean, that sounds really worthwhile. All right, so Rod, we've got a bid opening. And thank you for this.
But I got some of the sheets here if you wanted to jot down, but.
I'm Betty, I might be mistaken. I thought I said somebody come down the stairs with a yellow envelope. So
Yes,
hopefully they didn't
I
get
got
lost. No, just now.
Oh,
Oh.
just this minute.
So hopefully they didn't get lost. But maybe it's for another office too.
Sure, thank you.
Maybe they just need, maybe it was coincidence that they had the yellow envelope and needed to go to Imus office, but
I'll open them out first. So we've got
There we go.
3, is that right, Carrie? Yes.
maybe not.
Right.
But if, just leave the option open in case somebody does happen to stumble in here in the next few minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so first bid is from Ultag.
Oh, yeah, it just, the forms probably say my name on it, but. Oh, it's. Because I wrote them all, I wrote put the documents, but.
Oh, I see.
Missouri
Okay, Missouri
Petroleum.
Petroleum.
Brad doesn't actually do work.
No, I just shuffle papers. And watch people.
Yeah, Brad wants to make sure that we get that clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see him out there leveling this stuff off.
That would be a disaster, yeah.
Lots of figures. And the grand total is $2,219,787.40.
Betty, could you just, one more time? I'll shut
Sure.
that down.
It's $2,219,787.40.
Who is that from?
And that's Missouri Petroleum Products Company.
Who's ENGR, Brad, on this sheet?
That's me, that's my estimate.
Oh, okay.
But
The
I-
engineer's
you know,
estimate.
Yeah,
Betty,
just put
Betty,
that on there so you
you're
don't.
sure
mind
the
what I-
bid bond is there? Check with that too.
That's it.
Yep, bid bonds here. Second one is Asphalt Surface Technologies Corporation, also known as Aztec work. And we do have a bid bond. And the grand total is $2,392,414.77. The last. $2,000,000. Oh, and this is
That's cool.
ASCO, ASCO. And the amount is $2,711,414.95.
Is Missouri Petroleum, are they a new company?
No, no, they just haven't, they bid in the past, they just weren't low. So,
I was gonna say Aztec's usually been,
yep, Aztec has won them all so far, and I think in Missouri Petroleum was always second.
In the bonds there for that third one.
That's what I'm looking for. Bid bond, yep. Here.
so do we make a decision on this next week then?
Yeah, so then what I'll do is I'll take all them with me, go through them all, send Terry the paperwork, and then I'll have these back on Thursday, Terry. I'll drop them off and at your office,
All right,
and then next meeting I'll have something for you to act on.
here you go. Thanks.
How much over your budget, Rod, is this, do you think? Cause versus Brad's estimate, we're 300,000 over, 250?
400 over what I had planned.
400 over.
Now, this is for Yankton slice too,
Yeah,
so it might not be so bad.
I thought we were gonna have them separate this time.
Well, it is separate, so what I did was, there's two separate contracts, okay? And I'll have all these numbers, maybe I can crunch it out quick. But what I put out was, lowest bid wins, and then you'll have a totally separate contract, they'll have a totally separate contract, unconnected totally. But what I did for the bid opening is I tied it together, because my thinking was more volume usually means the unit prices. So that's what I did. I made them bid on both of them, and who has the lowest total wins. So that's
So it ain't gonna be that bad then.
so, yours was a little bit bigger, but it was. You know. You'd be a little more than half of that.
and Yankton's is a smaller amount because they're,
Less
what do you,
miles.
Yankton's only in their second year of
Yep.
doing
They just-
microsurfacing,
They
so.
just did like 8 miles last year to dry
Right.
it out, or 7, whatever it was.
But I read in the paper, they like it,
Yeah,
so,
so far,
yes.
you know. Okay, thanks, man.
Well, and we're actually ahead on miles, right, on the plan, since what, 3 years ago, we did extra.
Yep, because it came in pretty cheap. That looks like that was a good idea.
Yeah, it was a good idea.
So I mean, that option's always there if we have to, if some year we have to cut back.
Right.
We're not falling behind.
Right, and we already had that talk the other day about the Bolin oil. Was that new grain handling thing coming in after we had all these, you know, I never heard about it till after everything was kind of down on paper, ready to go to bid, so that's something we gotta discuss in the future here when he figures out how much it is. So, and then we're gonna take a look at that section of road there too, to see, you know, it might not be worth, you know, putting our money into that. We'd have to look at a different. I know Union County, they're planning on the other side of the road, what, concrete?
We're looking at that. We're gonna get some cores and so on. Yeah, I think that the Union County section of that will get. Basically, all the grain will come in. Pretty much on that section of road, but I think it'll go out on it too. I suspect that most of it will go from the handling unit out to the interstate.
Yeah,
So it'll have, that section of Union counties will have more traffic than anyone else's, but it might be a lot, but I think the plan was we're gonna just core your road and see what we got. And then we can decide, I mean, we could change order it off, or we could do a different road with those miles.
That first 2 miles off the interstate over the going west of, since I've been here, has been a problem. Yeah. But I mean, it's held up. Now we've overlay patched it, you know, kind of patched it together, but for what traffic's there, it's been holding up, but everybody I talk to on the west side of the county is just can't wait for that to open. Hopefully they're really cheap green and they all someplace.
they're not gonna be,
I know.
and that's just a bean facility that they're planning this fall, and that's 2.5 million bushels
Oh, it's just beans this year?
this fall. But that's 2.5 million bushels. That's 50,000 acres of beans.
Yeah.
And
What's
then,
that about? When you guys load trucks, that's only about 100 trucks. Had a few ones.
Editorial comment. Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking into that, so. Unfortunately. See
Yeah,
what
because-
phase- What's under that road.
See what it looks like, yeah. If worst case, we'd have to take it up and redo base, I suppose.
You know, wait and see what we find.
Yeah,
That's the cheapest way to find out is having to use recorders.
definitely.
And we'll use geotech like you guys are using out here too. That's one we always use. So. That's all on that.
you know, so, and for future plan, you know, there's gonna be about 7 to 10 million bushels of corn, plus their long-term plans, of fertilizer plant also.
Yeah, I just heard that the other day.
So I mean, there's gonna be a lot of traffic on that
Yeah.
road.
It might take. A fairly substantial.
Redo.
Build up, yeah. I mean, we're looking at. You know, for that Union County section of it, that's gonna be a expensive project. We might end up putting concrete pavement down on that. That 3/4 of a mile or plus from the interstate over, and then we'll think about what to do. You know, that other half a mile to the county line, but like I said, I personally think that you know, the section of Union County will be the worst, but we can figure that out too, and that's part of the, you know, we get a coring, them guys sometimes, you know, we can have them core down deeper and run a test on what's down there.
Run some proctors on.
Yeah.
On the subgrade.
And then they'll give us some.
Is that what we plan on doing, or do we
We'll-
just
we'll
want to
do-
go to the
we'll-
base?
We'll do that, I mean, at least to see, just to physically see, but it's been my experience on these that you don't have much.
Yeah,
And what happened, even if there was gravel there in time. You know, the mud comes up, but the gravel goes down, and by the time we core it, there isn't much. So just brace yourself, because I don't think.
And I looked and we did not code that. I thought we'd already coded that.
That was one of them we did, so my gut tells me that we're not gonna. Have a lot to work with, and we'll have to. Then we'll just have to decide on how far.
we just want to make sure that it's right the first time, because
Yeah.
if you do it wrong, and have to redo it, that first payment is all wasted.
Yes. Well, yeah, what might happen is it'll be so broke up after this first year that it will be, easy to tell where we need to rebuild, where we don't. So, but we'll see.
There used to be money out there for farm to green, roads, and we
Right.
just never had any. We kind of got a loan or a SBI loan and some money for that for when the ethanol plant was coming in, which didn't happen, but that was concrete. And we worked with state, get a turning lane, and that was 15 years ago, 12 years ago, and that was like $1.5 million
Mhm.
just for 3/4 of a mile back then. So I don't know what the concrete is gonna.
There are grant programs that, I don't know how far away from that facility they would cut that off. But you get, the worst case is you apply, they say no. So there are some, when we kind of figure that out, we're helping Union County put together a grant like this week. There's a different, because they're right there, but, we'll get the cores and we'll figure that out and then we'll, I don't have a good feel about, the roads to the plants. They almost always get a grant. Now, how far away they'll let us go is, I don't know. And those are, they're 80/20. And it's, a maximum of, well, 600K. So the project would be 600K divided by 0.8. Like the maximum amount that the state will kick in is 600K at an 80/20 match for that grant. Now, and it won't cover it all, but that's better than nothing. So, it's a lot of money. So
So
that's how those grants work.
they do 600, they do 80% of 600,000.
No, they'll do.
So whatever.
Their 80% that they
Okay.
will give you is 600K. So.
If it was a $750,000 project, we'd pay 20% on it, but past that, it's.
Right. Yeah, anything over, it's 80/20 up to 600K after that, of 600K of their money. And anything after that, it's 100%. So. That 600K, you probably get about half of it. Or so, and then we'll probably have to stop. I mean, the road keeps going, so we could go. Yeah.
So, while we have the guys out there corn. Do you think we should go from 19? All the way to
Well,
the East County line, or should we just start at Hub City or the last 2 miles at Greenfield? Or
I was,
my thoughts. I think we ought to start Highway 19 and go, cause everybody's gonna come in from that point. But that's 8 miles. So 16, how many quarters? 2 miles
Yeah.
or more?
And once you got them out here, those cores are $300 or something.
Yeah, they're not very
We're not
expensive.
talking giant money here.
I just wondered how far you guys think we should go.
Probably the 19's a good idea.
That makes sense.
And
And that gives us a real good hard stopping spot right at the state highway when we put in our application.
we need a couple extras in those low spots where there's soft underbase, it's not a bad idea. It's one of those places where money spent up front can really,
Yeah, you can't clap your hands and put more gravel under the ass after we've done it, so we've
Correct.
got to do it all at a time.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got a plan.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Anything else, Rod?
Did you put
Yeah.
anything else?
we've got the right of way applications and
Right of ways.
You did put it on.
Yeah,
Oh, we
we've
did.
added
I
those.
didn't print the new agenda.
well, we just added them this morning. So
Okay.
you got
Thank you.
material?
Thank you.
I think we added material bids and right of way.
Yeah.
And then,
the bid recommendations. And the right of way, you know, so I looked them all over, or what's first?
Yeah, right away.
Okay, so I looked them all over and signed them. So I recommend you, I don't know if you approve them one at a time or all of them, but
I noticed two of those were vibratory plows, so they'll go on through the asphalt.
yeah, no, that was on the gravel,
Oh, okay.
wasn't it?
well, they were in fence lines.
Yeah,
They just
Yeah,
followed a
where
fence
they're
line.
coming down south of Freebirds, I believe.
When they cross the road, they bored.
Yeah, they
Right.
were. Yeah.
Okay,
They were plowing it in just south of Freebirds to that first place it on the fence line.
yeah, on the map, it was hard to tell exactly
Yeah,
what they were
it was
doing.
off the edge of the road, kind of.
Okay,
459.
yeah, move to approve then.
All of them, right?
Yeah,
I'll second that.
So there's a motion and a second to approve. I'm gonna count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right-of-way applications from Clay Union Electric. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
And we are all set with
Thank
right of
you.
ways. And then we've got the rural infrastructure grant to townships.
Oh. So at the meeting in my conference last week, they had a 45-minute discussion about the REIF. And I didn't know this, I don't know if you guys, but we're only supposed to grant them 80% of the project. We're not supposed to give them 100% of the money that we get. So we granted Star Township pretty close to 50,000. They're supposed to kick in 20% of that. And according to the Doug Ginnenberg, the state guy, you can't use that money to cover the township's 20%. So I don't know, we did that wrong. I did not know that was part of it till it was discussed, so I don't know what we want to do. I haven't got a hold of him, Mr. Peterson yet, so, and I don't know, there wasn't any other thing, right, to help them cover it, except for some of the, of course, a couple of the bigger counties, Brown County, Brookings, or, Brookings County, they were just kicking in the 20%.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, under the grant, they're only allowed to spend 80% on the project, and then the surplus would have to be returned to
Yeah,
the
so-
county for reallocation.
You know, we, of course, haven't cut them a check yet, but I did already deliver that to them, that you guys approved what they requested, which I think was 48,000 and some change. So that might change it, and it changes the way I looked at the other ones also, that like that bridge over Baptist Creek, which is like, what we come up with, some rough estimate, 250,000.
Yes.
So,
If we reuse those double Ts. Perhaps, I've done this in the past where that could be. Maybe we could spin that and that could be part of it, like the match.
that could be an in-kind match reusing.
It's not impossible. I don't want to speak for the DOT, but we've done that. That has happened before on other things similar to that.
On other grant programs.
Yeah, where they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be important in the case of the money that we've already told them that they're allocated, that they get something in writing from us that we keep a copy of that says that they're only entitled to use this money for 80% of the project. And that's what we'll pay for.
yeah, that, I guess,
But I think it needs to be in writing.
my fault.
I think Ron knew that.
I mean,
I don't know.
of all the townships, Ron went to all the meetings, but like I said, I haven't talked to him. I did not realize that was And I missed out at a few of the meetings because I thought I was gonna be left out of it until later on. I got dumped back in our lap.
I think Ron. would do that.
Do you mind calling Ron and telling him?
I was gonna call it today after I talked to you guys, so.
It was pretty obvious it was an 80-20 match, you know, that the grant program would only really pick up 80%.
And see, and I missed that part.
Yeah, I did too. I missed that part too.
Yeah,
Cause you know, I'm sure he didn't ask for 80%. That was the total cost of the project, you know?
yeah.
Maybe
We,
he's keeping his mouth shut.
yeah, we needed to,
It's done.
for our part, I think that we needed to approve the entire project at 100%. But the discussion in between is that the grant program would only pick up 80% of that.
That's how I thought, cause the meeting I come to, that's what I thought we talked about.
Right.
I guess it
But
is.
so then we've approved,
So we're on the hook for 40 or?
no,
So
so
we had to approve the entire project cost.
they can spend up to 47,000 of 80% of the project.
Yeah,
So I mean, if their project is 55,000 or whatever, we've approved up to 47,000 then? Or is it 80% of the 47,000 they were asking for?
That's
it
what
was-
I thought it would be 80% of the 40,000.
that's my understanding.
48.
Because total project cost was 40, for about 48K, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we approved is my recollection. I'm getting old, so
No, that's-
my recollection will get fuzzy, but I'm sure that our part was to approve the whole project. But in the discussion, it was obvious that the grant program would only pick up 80% of that.
Okay, yeah, I'll let him know. When I get back to the office, and then if there's something else, he can get on the agenda next week and.
Yeah, and
We
that
could
was in the
discuss it.
paperwork too, as I recall. That it was obvious there was an 80% grant.
I'll find out. Just wanna let you know, cause that was news to me. That's Wednesday when I heard it, so.
So do we know if those bridges will work over Baptist yet?
No, I'm trying to go take a peek at it maybe today.
Yeah, it's been so muddy up there, for our sake, you can't get in.
Oh, that's where they're at.
I don't even think you can walk in there.
And if we can't, then I'll, one of the times down here, I'm gonna go look at them. Can't get them in.
You know, we took them off the Bluff Road only because the outside section was all broke up and you couldn't buy one. Then, so we put a different deck on it. Holloway's come in and I believe is right by Frank Orr's, Justin Orr's on the Bluff. And I believe they did a little work to extend it, so we widened it to 32 or whatever now. And you know, basically the engineer, the deck was, one side of the deck was real bad for some reason. So the other 3, 4,
We'll count them up and see.
we got a bunch of them piled up there. The ones that came off the Clay Creek too, I believe were up there, right, Larry? Those? Yeah. So, well, you know, we were gonna bust them up and use the concrete, you know, get rid of the steel, but one of them, they're pre-stressed. And we were told you don't wanna do that, something could explode
Yeah,
if you ain't doing it just right, so that's why they got put out in the corner, but if there's something they could use them for. I don't see why not, but
how were they failing or were
I
they,
didn't
was
look
it
at those.
spalling?
I was Johnson. It was our other
Alkali
engineer.
spalling or something like that or,
On the outside one, it was,
yeah,
but I don't remember the inside and the north side having any problems.
I look at, there's a lot of those around. I look at lots of them, so they get a common. You know, they got usually they got a pretty big rebar that goes right down the bottom of the stem. And then what happens is it cracks there and then that rebar rusts and it cracks straight down longitudinally right along the bottom. And that's really bad because the concrete around
yeah.
the rebar is what makes it act as one. And so that's what I'll look for, but. There's a lot of those around though too, you know, even next door. I mean, if those don't work. A guy might be able to find enough of those. To make them work. You know, they got the edge ones are a little different. Well, it depends on what they got, cause they got like that. You bolt they got concrete post that bolts to it for the rail.
Yeah, see, these have steel and we,
Oh, okay, so then, but
I know some of them have the,
we'll see if there's enough of them there to make it wide enough, and if there's not, then we just don't do that, or we see if we can find them.
so the only. And I thought about this the other day, so if we do give them these. It's gonna be what? 35 foot?
Yeah, here's
So
here's
all
the
of a
other.
sudden It comes back on us again.
Yes.
It ain't our bridge, but when it gets over 20 foot,
It's gonna be ours.
it's gonna
yes.
be
Yeah.
our bridge, so if we're gonna take over a used. Bridge,
Maybe you don't want
See-
to be too homemade.
to me. When they didn't like what I told them, but to me, the way it's sitting right now, that's the way it should stay. Just close the road, cause there's. One guy lives clear up on the hill, and there's another mile section coming in. From the east, and they can get to all the fields on the west side of the bridge. And it's been closed for 3 years. I get calls, are you gonna do anything with it, but nobody calls, says I can't get to the bridge, or I can't get to my field. And if that floods along the University Road, they ain't getting there anyway. So I mean, that's my option, but then I got thinking, so we help them out. Given these bridge sections that we already removed, granted off a high, oil road. Then we're gonna get that bridge back, cause all of a sudden it's over 20 feet. So granted the back walls and stuff, I mean, it needs to be. Wider, because that's a bottleneck in the Baptist Creek. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but the bridge to the north of it's like 35 feet long. This is what, 15?
Yeah, maybe.
And for years, we've been fighting it washing out the back walls, cause it's actually in the channel. So it needs to be set out there, but then, I mean, I've taken out enough bridges. Adding one more back, but then I don't know. I want to. Add a used bridge back. I would like to see one of those little steel bridges put back in there like we did on the Bluff Road. But I mean, there's something else, I guess. If those don't work, what was the other? Same way, if you put a box culvert in, it's gonna be wide enough, it'll be ours again, right?
We're gonna end up with it either way.
Yeah, as long as, when you hit that magic, when we laid in out the bridge, when we come up with that 35-foot length, and when you put these in, a couple reasons is. Well, right now the abutments are sitting right, they're not big enough, so to make them a little bigger, plus we need to set them back. Because when you build a bridge, you don't want the new ones to be right over the old ones, because when you drive your pile, you hit. I mean, we hit enough stuff that you don't know what's down there anyway, but you know, you can't build one over the top of the old one, or you gotta offset them. And that's what happened, so, it's gonna be more than 20 feet. With that really in-house.
I like the closure myself, but
That's certainly,
the road closure, I mean.
and then that's a funny thing, because it's the township's road and the township's bridge now. So the county really doesn't have to act on anything.
Yeah, it's the township's decision whether they close or not.
Yes. But, with the putting in a 35-foot long bridge is. I guess if you didn't want it, then you just don't approve the grant, and that's that.
We got the bridge to the north of it a while,
Yeah,
but anyway, that's for another time.
yeah, we couldn't close that bridge because we don't own it until it's
Right.
20 feet long.
Well. We closed it because at the time.
Well, yeah,
We did,
safety wise.
that was before we turned all them back. Yeah. I believe. How long has that bridge been closed?
Since
5
19,
years. So,
since 19, it washed out.
and I was thinking it was closed before that even. No, I
No.
guess we probably. Cause sprayer drove over it and fell in the river.
Somebody moved the road closed signs, or they drove around them up at the,
They moved them so they get across the bridge, spray the other field.
Yeah,
Kid was on the phone and didn't realize there was a 20-foot hole on the other side of the bridge. Brand new sprayer.
it was quite a picture.
Yeah, it was. I still got it.
Wow.
Cause to this day, I still couldn't believe it. That's all.
All right. So let's see, Carrie had mentioned, we wanted to have, materials bid recommendations, is
Yep.
that right?
That's all the
Okay.
ones you opened up a couple
Yep,
weeks ago.
That's these.
So. Did you get a copy of my recommendations or no?
No.
Never got the
Oh,
spreadsheet.
okay, well, that's my fault. Would you rather wait and look at them? Till next week then? Then I can get you a copy.
I think that'd be a
Otherwise,
good
they're pretty,
idea.
pretty straightforward. There's, you know, a lot of one bidders, but yeah, I'll get you a copy. That's. No problem.
how come
Great.
Holloway didn't bid? Did you ask them?
They are busy.
Yeah,
I did talk to them. They were at the conference and they're just swamped. And he said it's, you know, if something did come up, they need us, we can always buy off a Union County bid or
Oh, okay.
actually Turner County is the one that has them on site right now, so. He said, and Kim from Turner County said that would be no problem. We bought off other people's bids, so it's not that big a deal, but he said they're just swamped and didn't know if they'd even, if we had something, even if they get to us this year.
So do we need to put that in the minutes when we approve the material bids then? That we're
No
gonna-
bidders.
That we're gonna use Turner County's bid? We don't need to, okay.
Or.
Brad
Cause you
said
just
no,
buy out the bid. You don't have to say, I'm gonna buy out the bid. You just-
okay,
It's.
if the
that's
time
a legal
comes,
Bid, or a legally done bid, you can.
Yeah, so I'll get that document to you for next Tuesday.
great,
Sorry about that.
no problem.
That's. Oh. I got a present for you too.
Uh-oh.
From Alta. I forgot to hand these out last week. A master transportation.
Oh, nice.
Plan with the.
Super.
Good job to have done.
Yeah,
Whoa,
You know,
slick.
And the electronic copy too.
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
so now you don't just lose one copy. You can use
Yeah.
two.
That's great.
I need a new bookshelf.
Okay,
Yeah,
this does bring up something that I probably should have brought up during visitors to be heard. So I used a few pages from this, Carrie, for my Ollie class last Monday. I had about a dozen people show up for that. And I kind of inverted part of the PowerPoint presentation that Carrie gave to me, and then added some stuff on transportation from this. And I took more or less took a picture out of the proposal that the final draft that had been sent to us electronically a month or so ago, which gave me some census statistics that were included there that we didn't have otherwise in an easily accessible format. The road maps that showed where our county roads were. I used the data from there for total amount of roads that we keep up. And so more or less what I did was give a presentation that was mainly from what Carrie gave me of what the county does, department by department. And then ended up how we pay for that, where our money comes from, where it's dispersed to, how it's allocated through us, through through our office to the cities, the townships, the schools and all that good stuff too. And the only part that I had any real discussion about was my very last slide. I had our discretionary disbursements and non-disbursements. I did, I was courageous enough to put that in, and it was pretty unanimous in the audience that go, man, Hammond, you were pretty brave to do that. I did have, we did have some comment on that, but that was really the only real substantive discussion that we had, was mainly based on this part, those couple of slides, and that very last slide where we just couldn't afford to fund all those discretionary expenditures. And that was libraries, Main Street Center, you know, those sorts of other things that we ought to do, but the last year, 2 years, we haven't been able to afford to. I did point out that we added back in libraries at our own expense, and thank you, you two that didn't get to vote on giving up your raise.
Well, I ran into a constituent at the post office that specifically wanted me to pass the word on to you about how much they appreciated that. So good,
Yeah.
little feedback from the audience there that they thought it was
Yeah,
a great presentation. So.
I've had several of those that about half of those that attended, I've seen since, and yeah, they thanked me for doing that. And I think it's a good idea to do a little feedback, and as I said to you guys before, that one of my favorite quotes is, when you're riding ahead of the herd, it's good to look back once in a while, see if they're still with you. And that's a good opportunity to do that. And it can be a little scary, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I can tell you that apparently this year, the legislature is going to have a summer study on county revenue. And I know that the legislature talks every year about and there's a proposal every single year for additional revenue for counties. And this year, the legislature is actually going to study it.
Do you see how many studies there are on that county level? There's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure all of those, I mean, I have to go back to the LRC and figure it out, but I'm not sure all of them passed. There were a lot of proposals for summer studies, but the ones that actually had people appointed to do them, Will Mortensen said, well, anybody can study anything they want, but here are the ones that the legislature is going to pay for.
So
And
that
so
list
it's
that
a
Christie
smaller
sent out
number.
yesterday is not, they weren't all approved then? A through O, or?
Not sure.
I don't think
Apparently
so.
a lot of, I don't know what the base was, but apparently a lot of them weren't approved, but the study on nursing homes was, which has really become an emergency, particularly in rural places and county revenue. I think that, they're finally recognizing that, there's a mismatch, and I was part of this Blue Ribbon Commission under the Rounds administration. And the conclusion that the commission came to was there's not enough revenue for counties to do what they're assigned by law to do. So, this year they're going to study it, which doesn't mean, it's just like they studied jails plus and nothing happened, but
Yeah, there's yearly lip service in the legislature.
yeah, we'll see.
Describing our plight. There was a couple of weeks ago in Dakota Scout, I think, did a nice article based on Davison County, where they described how county expenses are not limited, but county revenue is. And it was a pretty nice, probably 800-word article, mainly gathered data from Davison County, but describing that that's a statewide issue.
Yep. Yeah,
It was in the Mitchell Republic a week ago, if you missed it anywhere else.
Think so. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad,
Guys.
and Rod too. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, Rod, I did have one question on the vouchers. We're gonna get to those next.
Yes, vouchers are next.
What did we buy tires? What were the tires for $4,300? What are we putting them on?
Quite a few things.
Oh, okay.
Tractors, trailers, one for the pickup, or more tractors.
So is that,
All from Graham Goodyear, correct?
yeah,
Yeah,
but is that out of Yankton or do you actually?
No,
go-
that's out of Sioux Falls. They got in a big argument with them because Sioux Falls is our go-to guys. So I deal with Mick up there in City Yankton. So they come all the way down if they put the tires on. But usually we have JFI put the tires on, so then I don't have to pay them to come all the way down. But yeah, we bought a big trailer full, just cause we're needing them, you know, like front tires for the mower tractors, they wear out pretty quick, so. But yeah, there was like 4 rear tires, couple truck tires, 3 front truck tires, 4 trailer tires and 2 front pickup tires, if I remember right. And my God, our tires expensive. And those were all purchased off state bid too,
Okay,
because that's another reason we go through them. Not everybody can sell off the state bid, like we tried to buy something from Runick and Dave will put them on, but he can't sell. He doesn't move enough tires or whatever the purpose is for that state bid for. Once I know we get them, you know, and they drop them off for free, they got a route. So, yeah, but yeah, that was a big load. I think we just got them like
okay.
a week ago Friday or something, but yeah.
Other questions about vouchers? Is there a motion?
Everything is melting slow. We had to open up quite a few culverts. But I did drive across the river east of Wakanda this morning. And in a week, it's come up quite a bit. But the slow melt, I just wish it would continually melt instead of. It was like 1 below 0 in Aberdeen this morning. It was like 15 this morning when I got up.
Yeah.
So, and we're hoping to get the load limits off ASAP, but it still is bleeding, but I noticed all the water down here south of Meckling that was sitting in the fields covered with geese, just like that is gone.
yeah,
So
frost is out on
Yep.
that.
she's going out. Wakanda, we still got snow covered. And I don't know how it is over towards Beersford. I've been up in that corner if they still got snow cover yet.
Not much.
So hopefully by the 1st of April, we get these things off so we can go.
When you going back to 10-hour days then? Or 4-day weeks?
Well, I was thinking next week. We were gonna go this week, but the weather just ain't been holding, but we got trees to cut. Now stays late at night. Works a little better. That was something I was gonna mention, just in listening to all what's going on at the courthouse. And I don't know how it works up here, but you ever thought about while this is going on, a 4-day work week? So they had a whole day on Friday to work. You know, we have a mechanic come on Fridays, that's when he does all our oil changes and stuff. So we're not upsetting the trucks and their stuff, and I didn't know.
I think
just
every
thought-
option's on the table right
I know,
now.
I just,
Yeah.
I don't know how they're ever gonna deal with,
They're just, well, it's,
I'm glad you're not working on our shop, that's all I can say, not that I don't need it, but we're used to the noise.
It's not gonna be fun, but it'll be nice when it's done.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's-
will be nice.
everybody's gotta keep their eye on the prize.
Right,
Yeah.
you gotta look way down there, cause what is that gonna take? Is that a couple year process to do all this or?
It wouldn't be if they can get in and just do it,
And,
Right.
but I'm hoping we can tie it in with the court, or the courtroom.
yeah, I do
Project
too.
too.
And and it could be that the judge may cut us a little slack on noise since she's got, been in on the, putting together at least that courtroom security issue.
And if we were really lucky, we could tie it in with the jail
Yeah.
and get the same subcontractors to just hop back and forth.
Mhm.
And I never heard nothing from Geotech, but the field out there is bare right now.
Yep.
It's a little wet out there, but.
Sounds like they were gonna get the track machine and just go do it.
Yeah, that would make sense. All right,
Excellent.
thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
well, thank you.
Move to approve vouchers.
Okay, there's a motion to approve vouchers in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? And anything else we're missing on the agenda?
Just joint or executive session. for
Just
legal.
executive session, yep. So is there a motion to go into executive session for legal matters?
So moved. Oh, sorry. I'll
So
second.
moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are,
Move to come out of executive session.
there's a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any further business?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
See you Thursday, and if not Thursday, Monday.
Thursday. Yeah.
Monday night.
Monday
Monday
night,
night,
6:30, right?
Yep.
It's
I think
6:30.
it is.
Is it 6:30? Is that what
I
they're doing?
think so.
Yeah.
We're before
absolutely.
their meeting, right?
We should get an update from Drew probably. He keeps me,
The council meeting?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he keeps me up to date pretty well.
Yeah, so Thursday is the district meeting.
Yep.
I'm back.
We'll start arriving about 11:30. And then meet at noon and meeting at 1. So.
And yeah, the joint meeting with the city council, 6:30 Monday.
Yes.